This is Punk Rock and Politics, and today is December 31st, 2017, and this is the 2017 End of Year Spectacular episode. Let's do this!
These days are strange, it's true.
I would bomb the shit out of them.
If you think that punk rock doesn't mix with politics, you're wrong.
Welcome to Punk Rock and Politics. Today we'll be talking with my longtime friend, Efrem Rubio, about the major news stories of 2017, including Trump and the NFL controversy, some past highlights from the podcast, and we'll be reviewing my 2017 predictions. Was I right? Was I wrong? I don't know. You'll find out. We'll also be featuring music from bands who have made an impact on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast over this past year. But before we get into the 2017 End of Year Spectacular, let's check out one of the bands we have had on the podcast in the very beginning of 2017. Way back from episode number 7, here's Adrenaline by Amber Lamps.
Senses are no longer clear. I'll atone for all my sins. Feel the heat, adrenaline. I've been talking to myself, wishing I was someone else. Catastrophic mysteries, future insecurities, feeling like I'll soon be gone, feeling like I can't hold on. I atone for all my sins. Face the heat, adrenaline, as my kingdom lays in shadows at my feet. I put my head into my hands, admit defeat. Killing demons seems to be just killing time. Does the sentence fit the rhyme? Every day, trying to figure out as long as it's get this shot of adrenaline. Feeling like my time has come, knowing that my will is gone. I've atoned for all my sins. Face the heat, adrenaline.
Alright, what's up and welcome to our End of the Year Spectacular. So 2017 is coming to an end, and we have the Punk Rock and Politics, an old friend of mine here on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast. He's a previous bandmate in several music projects that I've been with, and he's my personal favorite average Republican, Efrem Rubio. What's up, Efrem?
I like to think of myself as more of like a conservative liberal in this modern day, Michael. So
yeah,
I don't know about average Republican, but I think that'd be okay for me.
If you're at all liberal or anything, all those liberal tendencies that you have now, you have to thank me for giving you, you know, because when we first met, and this is why I wanted to have Efrem on this podcast, because this episode we're gonna kind of go back and look back at all the stuff I've done the last year and everything going forward. But me and Efrem, we used to have crazy political debates, conversations, all late in the night, and we'd be yelling back and forth, and you know,
lots of talks about aliens, and how we thought George Bush was an alien, and everything in between.
Yeah, and, you know, and I would want to give social programs to the needy, and Efrem would say, no, we need to give tax cuts to the rich.
I was just poor at the time, so I wanted the money for myself. That's more it right there.
Like, fuck the poor people. We need to give more tax cuts to the rich. So, you know, needless to say, and everyone always thought we were arguing, but we're like, nah, it's just we're debating, and it was fucking good times. But it was good two-way conversations that we always had. So for this episode, I thought it'd be fun to look back at some stuff and then have Efrem on, and we'll kind of talk about everything that's going on. And of course, we have some really good beer that we're drinking. We're bringing in the new year. So it's December 31st. We're bringing in the new year here with everyone on the episode. And we're drinking some of my personal favorite, some Hefeweizen. So as these two episodes go on, it's going to be interesting and fun to listen as the interview gets better and better. So yeah, like I was saying, Efrem, we were in a band. We first met. The very first time we met, I joined a band. It's called Double Clutch at the time. This is back when we were in high school, 2003. And I went to this house, you know, did a you know, playing bass and did a whole interview and, you know, playing and audition, I suppose. That's the word, right? Yeah. And then they're like, cool, Mike, you know, you're really good. We want you in the band, but you have to share the room with this creepy fucker, Efrem, in the back.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. We first started playing music together back in 2003. We're roommates, kind of tossed in to live together in a band that playing together. And we just kind of like hit it off, got to know a lot about each other and kind of what we liked as far as music and punk rock goes. And then our political views obviously got like surfaced not shortly after that. And we've had a great relationship since then, and have had a lot of good conversation, a lot of good talk. So I want to thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah.
Yeah, really excited to kind of talk to you about everything on your mind.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So this episode actually is airing on the 31st. And so it's exactly a year ago that I aired the very, very first episode of the Punk Rock and Politics podcast. So I just kind of had an idea of it. And then I went and did it, and I went back and listened to that first episode. Oh, it's pretty horrible. So yeah, I definitely,
it's pretty bad. I listened to myself.
It's just very slow and dry, and I saw what I was going for, and I kept going with it, and it was pretty interesting. So this episode, we're going to focus on 2017 and look back at 2017, and then we're going to have another episode after this and look at 2018. Oh, shit, dude. Already 2018. So what were some of the things like that stood out most to you, Efrem, in 2017?
I mean, obviously the first year, you know, as far as, you know, new president, you know, Trump, his whole campaign and his, you know, him being president of the United States has definitely made a huge impact, and not just to, you know, the economy, but people's beliefs and the average American citizen and the not so average American citizen even then. And you know, a lot of things have been shaken up. For me personally, I'm a huge football fan, and so I really kind of took a really big look into, you know, what Kaepernick was doing and kneeling and the whole rights of, you know, our players allowed to kneel, you know, to the national anthem.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Is that not okay? Is that disrespectful? You know, is it just a show of, you know, your American, you know, your right to be able to do what you want? And so, it's kind of a couple things for me that I think was, really, pinpointed 2017.
Yeah, and that was one thing I wanted to bring up and talk about actually on the podcast, is because that I felt that was a really interesting issue, and I would call you and text you about it because that's where kind of me and Efrem, our worlds collide, really, because he's very into football and I'm super into politics. So once politics and football kind of meet, it's a really interesting combination and very weird for this day and age, especially with all the important things that are going on. It's like Trump has to tweet about Colin Kaepernick. And then this most recent thing, have you heard about, you know, the guys who were at UCLA, they were in China and they got arrested for shoplifting. And then Trump tweeted, you know, oh, I got them out of China. Did you hear about that? And then it was LeVar Bell or something was their dad. But yeah, it's really weird with Trump's, he has to go after like celebrity figures okay, there's so many layers to this issue, man. So let's kind of unpack it. So first of all, we have Trump being like a child, tweeting at Kaepernick and everyone. And then we have the actual protests themselves. And if Kaepernick and everyone who is kneeling, if they should do that, if they should be fired or not be fired. And then even at the root of everything, why they're kneeling is because of police brutality. And is police brutality a big deal? Also, will kneeling stop or curb police brutality or bring attention to it? I don't know. So let's kind of like go with that. It's like several layers. So let's start with the first one, really, like Trump, you know, should he be tweeting and all that? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's weird. It's kind of one of those things where we haven't had a president really that has been so outspoken, especially use social media as a platform to speak his opinion and his personal belief about really what's going on a daily basis. Oh, yeah. Regardless of what that opinion might be. Yeah. And so we have to ask ourselves, I mean, obviously he was running his campaign in this kind of way where he was just saying what he wanted to say. And I can't help but think also, okay, we have a president that really does speak his mind about everything, whether we agree with it or not. Yeah. Would we rather have a president maybe that's kind of more in the closet and doesn't really talk about things that we don't really get to know them about? You know, at least one thing with Trump, whether you love him or you hate him, you have to agree that like, the guy really does, for the most part, you know, say what's on his mind. He's pretty transparent. Yeah. Yeah, there's things that he might not have done yet or hasn't done. But at the same time, we haven't had a president with this type of transparency. No, I agree with him. He should be tweeting and all that. And I agree. I think his tweeting is good. And I think that's going to be a precedent set by future presidents, especially Bernie Sanders or someone like that wins. Bernie, he's a huge tweeter. So tweeting and sending out a message isn't going to go away. But as far as him, should he be tweeting at Colin Kaepernick? You know, also the tweeting is like a one-way. He's not holding press conferences. You mean should like the tweeting be filtered? No. But tweeting, totally fine. He tweets about North Korea. He tweets about economic trade deals with China or Theresa May. That's cool. But should Trump be tweeting about Kaepernick? I mean, but that's the thing. What Kaepernick, the whole point is that he's he's kneeling to the flag. So you think, yeah, it's appropriate. Okay, so let's go to the next layer. Does players in the NFL have the right to kneel, and do the owners have the right to fire them? And then the backlash, because they're getting backlash. The NFL is getting fucked from both sides right now, man. Kind of. I mean, think about it. Yeah, and they are. And I mean, my whole opinion is that I think that, you know, again, to play in the NFL is not a right; it's a privilege. You know, I mean, it really is a privilege, and you know, I'm not gonna. I mean, as far as whether it's okay to kneel, I mean, yeah, it's your right to be able to, you know, speak, you know, and show your opinion and what you believe and don't believe in. But I think there's a lot of players out there that are treating it more as like a right as opposed to a privilege platform that they're on. And obviously, you know, like Kaepernick, you know, Fortunately, because I think he's actually pretty. I mean, he's
statistically speaking, he's one of the best quarterbacks.
Well, he's definitely an above average. I will say, out of the quarterbacks, and this was a really big year for the NFL. I mean, as far as injuries goes, there's a lot of players that were hurt, especially at the quarterback position, and a lot of teams really could have used Kaepernick.
Could have used them.
They really could have used,
but they didn't pick him up because of this.
They didn't pick him up.
But you also have to think the other things that he's doing right now. He's out doing activist movements. He's raising money for children's like schools, and he's doing a lot of little things that he's using his celebrity figure. He's a celebrity icon essentially right now.
Yeah.
So he's using those as a really big thing. What I'm thinking, if a smaller player gets fired for kneeling, are they going to be propped up by the activist community like Kaepernick and be able to survive without a paycheck anymore? Because Kaepernick's fine financially.
Well, Kaepernick is kind of one of the he's kind of like in this whole like
the outliner.
He's kind of the outlier in this whole realm of what's going on with it, because you could say he's probably the only one in a sense that's safe. Everyone else is kind of there are bigger players. There are players that are even bigger than him and more talented and have done more with their NFL career that decided to go along with it. However, Kaepernick, because he was the first one to start it, will always be known as kind of like the guy for this whole thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of the donations and charities that he didn't really start until after the whole kneeling happened.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So, after he got fired.
Right.
After
all that happened.
And once Trump tweeted at him, it just expelled. He became a figurehead for the resistance movement. So let's go deeper, because we're doing what all the media does that I complain about all the time. They talk about the outer layers this is all about police brutality, bringing attention to police brutality. So do you think the police brutalities, is this what they're doing, the kneeling, is it actually bringing attention to police brutality in the overall conversation? Because I don't really think it is. I totally think it's awesome that they're kneeling. I support them kneeling. We totally kind of disagree. And I think, well, if a manager is going to fire someone for kneeling, they're going to end up being A-okay on the other side of their career by becoming an activist like Kaepernick. But is this even bringing real attention, and is the conversation about police brutality? I don't think so, because it keeps going to, like we were just talking about, Trump's tweets, and it talks about Kaepernick, should he do it? Should he not? Should he be fired? So what do you think about that? The police brutality, the main issue, why they're kneeling.
Well, I mean, I think that, as far as police brutality goes, and the whole thing about kneeling to start that, saying blacks they feel are being oppressed, especially by law enforcement. I mean, whether it's going to help or not, it's kind of hard to tell. I'm not really sure. I hope it does. Mm-hmm. I hope that all of this, I mean, if you're going to have players in the NFL, disrespect, the flag in a sense, the national anthem, and kneel down and make a statement, I hope that at least, some of the police brutalities, slows down or stops, obviously.
Exactly.
Because then then it'll be, for something.
Yeah.
And there are other things that have come out that have been good, but I really think that I think there's other things that are going to come from this that aren't going to be 100% police brutality related, that people are going to see as a really big light out of the whole kneeling.
Yeah. Well, I think you had an interesting point, because like always, there's two sides. I always try to stick back no matter what my personal beliefs are, and I try to look at the two sides. And the one side, they really, really respect, they love the flag, and they see this as dishonoring the flag, and they don't even give a fuck about that. The fact that you're dishonoring the flag, it automatically, they don't even want to talk about the police brutality. They're just so triggered by the fact that you're dishonoring the flag. And then the other side, they don't get that by doing this, you're dishonoring the flag, you're triggering people so hard, they don't even want to talk about the police brutality. But I think it's the independents in the middle who are like, why are these people kneeling? And, oh, okay, it's because of that viral video of that kid being shot. And not also the viralness videos and the tweeting and the Black Lives Matter movement, all this stuff that's really kind of started back in 2016, but really ramped up 2017. Huge, big deal. And it created a really big conversation.
Yeah, I mean, to go on a point on side of that too, for me personally, I really feel like the big thing for me that somewhat bothered me personally was when I saw the Steelers go into their locker room and sit pretty much the entire national anthem, except for one of the players, which actually served in the military, was the only one out there. And Ben Roethlisberger, remember him speaking later, saying he didn't like that. Like, it really did not feel good to him. I felt right. And you have one teammate who actually went out to war, who fought for our country to be able to actually go out there and play in the NFL. To actually to have the right to be able to even play in a country where you can do this.
I
make
think
millions of dollars.
I think Tomlinson, that's the coach, right?
Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, Tomlin. Yeah, I think he wanted the whole team to be in the locker room because he wanted to avoid the controversy. Right. And I think that player you're talking about, I think he went out there against the wishes of his coach, which that's in a way that's almost kind of the reverse of what Kaepernick did. But and this is why this issue is so fucking complicated. We can go on and on about this forever, but it's so many layers, like we're talking about. But in the end of the day, I don't know if it really brought more attention to police brutality and more talking about that. I think it's just we talked about Trump's tweets and about Kaepernick, which I personally like Kaepernick. I like what he's doing. So we'll see how the NFL's the ratings and everything plays out in 2018, and if it keeps going as it's going, or the ratings get better. Absolutely,
and that's the thing is this is on top of so many other issues that I'm sure you talked about and can talk about throughout the year. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you're able to talk about in this past year. What do you think, in your perspective, was your favorite thing you actually got to talk about in 2017?
Oh man, dude! Well, look at that segue, dude. Efrem's on his first show, and he's already boom, got the master segues going down right there. That's nice. I like that, man. Oh man, but I did actually talk about. Oh shit, who did I talk about? I think it was Brandon from American Standards out in Arizona. I think I talked to him about the football and everything, the issue. But yeah, you're right. It's really cool because see, when I talk to a band, when I find a band online, or when they come to me, I don't. I'm very adamant about, I'm not going to ask the band, what's your band name? How did you get your band name? What's your new song? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite thing you did on tour? I really hate asking those questions. I'm all about, what do you guys want to talk about that, that's a political or social event that's important to you guys, and let's talk about it. And so whenever the bands email me, they always have an issue, and it's really cool because a lot of these issues sometimes I have no idea about. Like the last episode, a few episodes ago, I had Step on the People. They're from Hawaii. Big up, what up, Sam? I hope you're listening. Hey, how's it going, man? But these guys, I was getting learning a lot of stuff, talking about the Hawaiian sovereignty movement, and a lot about the just the nuclear fallout that we were testing nukes and everything in some of those small island chains out there in the Pacific. It's crazy. So a lot of the bands that I've been interviewing, they bring a lot of really, really cool issues to the table. Also, another reason why I started it, and one of my favorite things, like you're saying about 2017, is learning about all these awesome bands and hearing all this great fucking music, man. But one of my personal favorite bands I always plug is Life Lessons. Andrew Wasson, he's the bass player. Oh god, I hope that's, he's the bass player. But Andrew, he's a fucking awesome dude. He's on Twitter. I'm always having little Twitter conversations with him. But these guys are from Oklahoma. He was on earlier this year. We talked. He was actually on the podcast twice. this guy. He's so cool. I'll just send him a message, be like, yo, dude, I need someone to come on because they had some new music. And and they got signed to a label, like a smaller label. So when I first had him on, we talked about like earthquakes and everything in Oklahoma and fracking, because fracking's huge. And in Oklahoma, they're getting more earthquakes than we get in California. I remember feeling earthquakes when we were a kid every now and then, but I haven't felt one in quite a while. But he's saying now, since he's been an adult, he's felt more earthquakes than he's ever felt in his entire life, which is that's kind of weird how that would happen. So definitely one band that I want to start out with highlighting is Life Lessons. So let's check out one song by Life Lessons, and then we'll keep going on the political mosh pit, man. So here's Life Lessons, Say Pretend.
Close your makeup, get the good things for the sake of making me feel like I'm made of soul. But still, running at first, thought as I should leave. Am I so different from before that you expected more from me? Did you expect something more from me? Did you expect something more from me? Did you see it in my eyes as you sat with me? Did you hear it in my voice or in memories? From back when it was easy to fall asleep, when we fight, no one's the winner. If I said you're right, you just don't remember. I'm starting to think you say I've given up because you're giving up on me. She said you're giving up on me. She said you're giving up on me. Go home, get some rest. We'll talk when I clear my head, or you can drive back instead. We'll talk it out, or as you say, pretend. Or as you say, pretend. We'll talk it out, we'll talk it out. We'll talk when I clear my head. We'll talk it out, we'll talk it out. Or as you say, pretend. We'll talk it out, we'll talk it out.
All right, and that was Life Lessons, Say Pretend. And I do want to really quickly catch up on them really quick before I go on. Like I was saying, when I first had Andrew and them on, I found them online. I was like, these guys have a lot of potential, the band Life Lessons. And I was following them, I had them on the interview, and then as I've been watching them and promoting the shit out of them, as much as I can promote any band that comes on the podcast, that's like my number one thing. But these guys, they actually put out a little album by themselves, then they got signed to Triple Crown Records, put out another album, and now they're working on their third album, all while doing tours and everything. Like, these guys from Oklahoma, they're gonna be big life lessons. So yeah, I definitely want to give a big shout out to them, and they're really cool. And I'm pretty sure Andrew's gonna come on the podcast more in the future, dude. So,
nice. Yeah, I remember Triple Crown. That was actually a pretty big label too.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's actually been, like, as far as indie label, even 10 years ago. I mean, they've been for a little while.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know it was a big deal when I saw that.
I
I
remember
know.
hearing a lot of
they
bands
have a
come off their
lot
label.
of potential, man. Life lessons.
Yeah. Very cool. And you know, the thing is for me too is I actually have a series of questions I actually really wanted to ask you. Kind of like about the podcast and this past year. And
Oh yeah, let's do it.
One thing I really wanted to ask is I know that there's been a lot of interviews and you've had the ability to talk to a lot of different artists on this show, but which one out of all of them are the ones that really sticks out that might be perhaps the most memorable one to you in this past year?
Yeah, well, oh man, and there's been so many bands and so many different things that I've talked to. It's really hard, but I would have to say, like, overall interview, kind of like a event or thing that I've gone in, because usually 90% of the interviews I do, and I'll do over Skype, because some of the bands that I've interviewed, you know, like I was saying earlier, Hawaii, or they've been all the way in the UK, or they're, you know, Oklahoma, or they're traveling on tour and they're in the middle of, you know, Northern California in their bus while we do the interview. It's really cool. I mean, modern technology is fucking amazing when you think about that, how I can do. Yeah, I know. Yeah, when I first started this, I was like, I'll do like a national show. But the audience, we have a lot of listeners from, you know, out in Mexico, Australia, UK, and then I started finding really cool bands outside of the States, and I'm like, dude, fuck it, you know, why not talk to them? And a lot of the things are the same. But as far as events, I do try to go out and do live shows. I've gone to, oh man, there's been a lot of really fun live shows. One of my very first ones was with the Stalins of Sound. This was the anti-Trump inaugural ball. This is when I first started the podcast. I only interviewed one band before this, or one artist, I should say, and that was Gregory II, and he's a hip hop artist. So actually, the very first artist or musician or band that we ever had on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast is a hip hop artist. Nice. So I thought that's kind of a funny, weird trivia thing. But the second was actually Stalins of Sounds and Nervous Defects, and they were doing a show at the Grassroots Oasis, is run by an amazing activist and hippie, Martha Sullivan. And she's older, but she's the coolest activist I've ever seen. And I actually I put on a show there called ActiFest. We'll talk about that later. You were at ActiFest. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But, and so that's how I first met Stalins of Sound and Hattie's. But the most memorable, and that show was actually really interesting because it was the day of Trump being inaugurated. So everyone was very anti-Trump, and they just finished a political march, ended up at the Grassroots Oasis, and then put on a punk show. And and I showed up all by myself. I interviewed Hattie with just my cell phone, and it had like a big crack on it. And I'm like, hey man, I'm doing a podcast. Can I interview you? You know, he's totally professional about it. And now I have good gear, and if I go up to a band, they'll take me a little bit more seriously, but I give a lot of props to him. So he was doing his very, very last show up in Oceanside, and he's playing with this band downtown. This band is from Seattle. They're fucking crazy. They're just insane. So, but before then, like I said, Hattie, Stalins of Sound, is their second to last show, and this guy is so cool. I'm friends with him on Facebook. He's like a hardcore, like communist almost, you know, Stalins of Sound, but he's a really, really cool guy, and he was like, oh man, you gotta check out this band downtown, and I was like, all right, they're crazy, but whatever. I'm gonna go to your show, interview you, because it's your second to last show. I was there way back when, and his band, I think they've almost been going about 10 years. So it was really cool doing the interview with him, because I went back, looked at all of his old music in his band, and I kind of, for the first song, because on the podcast, everyone who listens to the podcast, they know I like to play 3 songs from each band to kind of, so, because if you hear one song, you can't get a feel of a band from one song. You have to hear 3 of their songs, 2, maybe 3 or more, to really get a good feel of a band. So I got Hattie, and I went back to his music. So I got the first song from one of his very first albums, second song from his mid album, and then third song from his later album. So I kind of talked about politics, because he's a really political guy, and we always have great conversations. And this was the second time I had him on the podcast. But I also kind of talked about the history of his band. And, he was kind of like, it's a bittersweet thing, because one of the members were moving up north, and it would have been a 2-hour commute to try to do band practice. And
I know, yeah.
Just being in a band, if you're 10 minutes away from your bandmate, how hard that is.
That
Imagine being 2 hours.
Commute,
yeah, it can, dude. It can. So yeah, they had to wrap it up, and it was kind of like you saying, a bittersweet thing. Of course, he's doing a new band. I think it's called Revolutionary Guard or something, which is perfect, going from Stalins of Sound to Revolutionary Guard. But so Hattie and the guys from Stalins of Sound, they have been great and really cool friends of the Punk Rock and Politics podcast from the very, very, very beginning. And I would have to say, interviewing him and him really taking the interview seriously with just my cell phone really gave me a lot of motivation and confidence to keep going with the interview and with the podcast. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Very
so let's check out one of Stalins of Sound's, one of their songs, and then I'll kind of talk about Downtown, which is these guys, man, they're crazy. So here's Stalins of Sound, Functional Regressive. Alright, and that was Stalins of Sound, Functional Regressive. And like I was saying, Hattie, the lead singer of that band, he introduced me to Nick, who is the lead singer of Downtown. And like I was saying, I was just going to the show originally only to interview Hattie and Stalins of Sound for their last show. I had all the show notes ready for them, and then I got interviewed to Nick. Okay, so Hattie's like, oh man, this is Nick. And all I know about these guys are their crazy music videos on the internet. And these music videos are just like women dancing in half naked things, and then a guy doing a line, and then a cop car getting blown up, and then like a missile being shot with their crazy music with the craziest lyrics being played. I'm like, dude, these guys are just out there. And so when I first met Nick, the first things he said to me, he's like, hey man, what's up? I'm Nick. I was like, hey man, what's up? He's like, do you have a VHS player? And actually, Hattie at that other show I was talking about, the anti-Trump inaugural ball, Hattie gave me a cassette tape. And then Nick, he gave me, a few months later.
Why did he ask if you had a VHS player?
Because he gave me a fucking VHS, dude. A VHS of all of their music videos, which, 45 minutes of just clips of the craziest randomness shit you could ever imagine with their music behind it, which have the most insane lyrics ever. And these guys were crazy. And so I usually, before I interview a band, I like to have show notes. So at least I kind of have a rough outline of, what songs I'm playing, who the members of the band are, and just stuff. So I kind of try to sound professional, I suppose, even though most of the time I don't. But, I try, Yeah. And so when I was interviewing them, I have no show notes. So I was like, I was lost. And these guys were as crazy as their music and their music videos and their live performance was. They were that crazy interviewing, just silly, ridiculous, but they were the coolest fucking guys. The keyboard player, there's three guys, the keyboard player, Raj, then Dane, the drummer, and then Nick, the lead singer. Raj had like a belt. He took his shirt off, and one girl was like Snapchatting him playing keyboard the whole time with no shirt on. And I was just like, my God, zooming up super close. It looked like Dane was basically having sex, and she's like Snapchatting it to all of her friends. Oh, look at this hottie I'm banging, or whatever. But he has a belt that has electrical writing going on his belt. And then the drummer, he's Dane, the Danger Dane. He's back in the back doing rhythm, acting like a robot. And then they have a big white sheet in the background, sprayed downtown with spray paint on it in the back. So I am very big on, even if I don't really dig the band's music, which I like Downtown's music, but a lot of the bands, it's not usually my cup of tea, the music, but I love featuring them. But I love it. Even if I don't like the music, I love it so much when a band has they have an identity. They have an overall thing there, and that's Downtown, dude. 100%. These guys, they're fucking nuts, man. And I hope they make it. I hope they make it big. But they're not like a band like Life Lessons, who are very cookie cutter, very, very tight, very good. Very good pop punk. New post-pop punk. This Downtown, they're trying something new. But they're also their own piece and their own unique thing. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
when a band...
I think that's the one thing, too. I mean, it's growing up, as a musician, playing in bands in high school and after, and just being in groups. I think one of the most difficult things for any band or any artist, absolutely 100%, is to have an identity. And not only just an identity, but an identity that you like. An identity that you want. Because there are artists that have identities that they don't want.
Yes, yeah. And these guys were having fun. They pigeonhole that one, and they're like, fuck, I fucking hate that. I'm known as this band that has this one shitty song that the whole world wants me to play at every show. And you have to keep doing that because that's your only way of making money.
That's what they want.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's the hard part.
And that's the thing about Downtown. This band, they're from Seattle, and they did a tour down here. And their gimmick, that is their gimmick, and they love it, right? Yeah. And it's perfect. Everything about them is that gimmick. And they were doing a show they were talking about, and I guess there's a bunch of sorority girls who wanted a bunch of poppy dance music, and I guess they didn't like Downtown's music because it's very punk, electro, just weird lyrics, music. And so I guess Nick did turkey time, as they call it, and he puts his finger out of his crotch of his pants, Yeah. So all these sorority girls were there, and they did turkey time, and then they're like, oh my god, and they all left. And then it's like, what fucking band does something so hardcore that you're trying to get a bunch of girls to leave? Like, that's part of your act, man. I'm like, dude. And then when they wrapped up their set, of course, all those stupid sorority girls came back to the bar to go get drunk to hear the next cover band that was playing, you know, like you said, all those shitty singles that everyone wants to hear.
You should ask them for the VHS of that show. That would be fun to watch.
That's on their next part 2 VHS that I'll get. I'm sure next turn. They said it was on Facebook, so hey, big shout out to Downtown. And if you want to see that Turkey Time video, go to it's the real Downtown Facebook. So, but let's check out one of their song. And I did pick the most ridiculous lyrical song of theirs to feature, just so I can present what they are as a craziness. So even if you don't like the music, please listen to the lyrics and just enjoy. And when you listen to the lyrics, just realize they're 10 times crazier live. So yeah, I love this band, man. And that was an interesting night. And actually, when I got to that fucking show, I locked my keys in my car because I was so goddamn excited to to interview Hattie, and I was so excited for the show. I like Hattie; he's a cool guy, and I was so excited to do the show. I locked my fucking keys in my car, and my window was cracked. So I actually went in and I saw the security guard. I'm like, dude, this is the weirdest thing, but my window's cracked. I locked my keys in the car. Can I use the pool key, the pool cue sticks?
Right.
To go in and wedge out my keys.
You asked
like,
the security guard if you could break into a car?
Yeah. And he let me do it. So I got the pool sticks, the pool keys, and I was going, and as I was like wedging them in, trying to get my keys, because I left them on my seat, on the pool stick, the security guard standing there, he's like, I mean, I didn't really see you pull up in this car, so I'm totally trusting that this is your car. I'm like, bro, this is my fucking car. I'll show you my thing inside.
You probably parked your car in my apartment complex, because our security guy would have probably let you do that shit too.
But needless to say, I totally fucked up, and I went to pull the key up, and I just dropped it down on the ground. So I had to call AAA and have them come out. The tow guy came out, but he was cool as fuck, and all went well. I got the interviews, but yeah, I thought that was just kind of a nice cherry on the top of that whole interview. So, but let's check out Downtown. Here's before we move on. So here's Fly on the Wall by Downtown.
Downtown on the beat.
Closed.
right, and that was Flying a Wall by Downtown. And as we wrap up this episode, 2017 is coming to an end, man. It's fucking over, dude. It's like 2017 feels like it just started. So, but then again, it's so weird because it feels like it just started. It feels like yesterday, but then I go back and look at all the episodes, and this one's gonna be episode 48. And then I also did 2 best of episodes and then 2 punk rock and politics mixtapes, which are basically a mix of all the artists that come on. I put all their music back to back. It's really cool. Very eclectic mix of music, both of those, volume 1 and 2. But I was looking back, so it feels like no time has passed, but at the same time, it feels like I've accomplished a lot of shit. Do you know what that?
Yeah,
I mean?
It's. I think I think it's totally true. I think the one thing is, for me, is kind of going back and seeing everything I've done and I haven't done, and the things you always think about the things that you wish you had done. So that's one of the things that I think for me is what I want to change for this next coming year.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about predictions in the next episode. So boom, dude, you want to hear all the crazy shit Efrem has planned for next year? Next Tuesday. But yeah, let's wrap this one up. So like I was saying, I totally agree with you, man. And but I was going back and like we were saying, I was listening to the old episode, the episode number 1, Punk Rock and Politics number 1 is so horrible. I was thinking about kind of replaying the clips and stuff, but it's so horrible. I'm like, fuck it. Listening to me, drunk Efrem and drunk me right now, just talk about what I said is way more entertaining, I figured. So really quick, I had 3 predictions a year ago. Okay. We're going to see if they came true. So first one, gas prices. I said that gas prices were going to go up, basically. I said because of OPEC and everything, and I didn't really say how much, but I thought it was going to go up significantly more than it did go up, but I was correct, because here, let me get the statistics. So, according to Gas Buddy, you know about gas, yeah, Gas Buddy, I didn't know. I thought it was a farting app. No. Yeah, you could record your farts and like share, like an Instagram app, but for farts, so dude.
It's like an Instafart.
That gas me Instafart, dude. Yeah. That's even better. All right, so okay, dude. Right, all right, you get it. Yeah. So Gas Buddy forecasted in 2017, U.S. average gas price, it was $2.49 a gallon. God, I wish we could pay $2.49 here in California. But basically, it snapped a yearly trend that has seen prices fall annually since average $3.60 in 2012. So gas prices have been falling ever since 2012. Gas prices fell all the way in 2016. The average gas price was $2.13. And 2017, it was $2.49. So gas prices rose. I thought it was going to be a lot higher, but there we go. So, okay, I got one right, huh? Okay, and then the second one was Trump's infrastructure bill. Or I said Trump would be blocked by the Republicans for presenting an infrastructure bill. But we all know, as I talked about on the podcast plenty of times, Trump got blocked. First thing he put through by his Republicans, he got blocked on his healthcare bill. So he did get blocked on his first major legislation, but I just had it wrong. I thought it would be an infrastructure bill. Because you have to remember, I recorded that episode, it was before he even took office. So I was still kind of going off his campaign rhetoric. And he hasn't even presented his infrastructure bill, which supposedly they're going to do next year. But hey, I'm still skeptical about that one. So that was interesting. So I would say that's a half point. What do you say, Efrem? Is that a half point?
I'd probably say it's a half point.
All right. Okay, good. All right, and then we have number 3, the last but not least, more celebrities dying. What do you think about that? Did more celebrities die, or was it just as big of a deal of celebrity deaths in 2017 as 2016? Because people were saying in 2016 that was the year of the celebrity death, because we had Prince and we had several big names. But 2017 we had Tom Petty, and we had a lot more, and then we had two big ones that meant a big deal to you.
Yeah, well, I think the big one from 2016, the two big ones that obviously were big ones, you know, to me and you had Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington from Linkin Park. Chris Cornell, obviously, from Audio Slave and Soundgarden. Those two were
Audio Slave. That's good.
Those two were really, really, really big, and definitely really saddened by that. But yeah, I mean, 2016 really kicked it off. I mean, obviously, like David Bowie, that was a big one. You know, a lot of people were really big fans of him, and you know, Prince, and you know, definitely impacted, you know, the big, you know, the music community.
In 2017, Glenn Campbell, Jerry Lewis, Hugh Hefner.
Yeah,
Hugh Hefner.
Can't forget the Hef, man.
In 2017,
absolutely.
David Cassidy.
Yeah.
Della Reese, you know, she's an actress. And then, like you said, Chester Benningfield. So, but my real thing for the end of there is Hollywood is getting older. I think Chuck Berry also died. You know, Hollywood is getting older, so they're naturally going to be dying. And we're not replacing these old iconic stars and movie actresses who are very, very talented, iconic people. We're not replacing them with new great stars. So, you know, we're not, these big celebrities are dying, and we get Miley Cyrus and Justin Bieber is still here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously, I mean, those people that, you know, you're mentioning also were obviously iconic because they were so different. They're so different, you know, artistically and musically and outspoken and things that they believed in, and really helped humanity more than just their art and what they contributed to society. And so that when you have those two things, and you know, with a celebrity like that passes, it really definitely makes sense, like a shockwave, you know, through the community. So definitely sad to see that, and not looking forward to hearing anybody else. Hopefully, you know, cross our fingers we don't have anybody else.
And you had a prediction. We were talking a little bit before we set up the microphones, and we were talking, you had a prediction of a 2018 death that terrifies me. I hope this isn't right.
It terrifies the shit out of me, and I don't even know why it just came out, but for some reason I hope it doesn't happen, but I was, you know, Bob Dylan, I can't imagine. I just hope nothing happens to him.
Yeah.
Because he's been such a huge idol and such a huge inspiration, especially music, you know, personally for myself. Yeah. I know for you too.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you know, growing up with the Beatles, you know, he was.
Well, and that's another one I was thinking about is kind of just thinking about, I saw Paul McCartney. I saw Paul McCartney for the first time in Coachella 2009 with you. And then I saw Paul McCartney, I believe it was 2013 here in San Diego, and that was another artist. I was kind of like, man, when Paul McCartney dies, that's gonna really take a big chunk out of me, because you know, a lot of people, when celebrity dies, everyone does the Facebook thing. They'll change their Facebook profile, and you know, they make a big deal about it, and it's every fucking celebrity. And that was one thing that I did mention a year ago. I was saying that Entertainment Weekly and all these news sites are kind of like, oh, this abstract jazz musician who's 104, he died. This actress who's 93, who did this one movie back in the 50s, she died. And everyone's like, oh my God. And they click on it. And it's almost felt insincere, in that these oh my God, imagine news corporations doing shit just to get clicks. But it's like they're capitalizing on people's deaths, and it was kind of like, yes, Carrie Fisher, that fucked me up, man. I was super, and that was December, basically a year ago. That was December 2016. That really made me sad, you know. So if something ever happened eventually, when it does, it's going to be devastating. Especially same with like I was saying, Tom Petty. It's kind of crazy. Like you said, the communities, man, it sends that ripple. And now we're not getting we're not getting enough actors and musicians and actresses and artists and bands that are replacing these iconic figures. So that's one thing my goal of this fucking podcast is, I swear to God, one of you bands that we have on the podcast, my goal, I promote the shit out of every band that I ever have on the podcast. I always am promoting and trying to replay their music. Like on this episode, we looked back at a few other bands, and we'll look back at some more bands on the next episode in a week, or on Tuesday that's coming out. And, you know, I'm always about promoting these bands, because my goal and one thing that I would love to see is one of these bands grow and actually become big and famous and be able to actually live and make money off of doing their dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, so that's one big thing. So, all right, man, let's give it up. We're wrapping up the podcast, and it's the end of motherfucking 2017. So let's do a little countdown. We got our Hefeweizens here. Let's do a little countdown here. So from the end of 2017, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Or we have plastic glasses so they don't sound cool to clean. I was like, God damn it, Efrem, you had one job. That's some good fucking beer. Oh man, one thing about living in San Diego with all the goddamn IPA, that's what we gotta do. We're gonna do, there's one podcaster, one podcasting group, they drink craft beer and talk about politics. Oh god. Oh man.
They drink craft beer and they talk about politics?
Yes, and these guys are awesome, but I definitely, their name of the podcast is totally, it's Dumb All Over. That's it. Yes, and these two guys, I think they're out of Wisconsin, I'm not sure where, but Dumb All Over, they drink beer, craft beer, and talk about politics. So I think it'd be pretty fucking cool if me and you were to somehow set up a Skype and do a interview with them, just kind of talk about beer, or we'll have you on with the artists and talk about more beer.
We did like 10 years ago. And
that's like what we do every day. Yeah, that's what we used to do every day. So maybe we'll set up another podcast like that. But all right, let's wrap this episode up. And hey, don't forget, Part 2 of this episode will be up on Tuesday, and we'll hear more of Efrem's riveting questions. We'll learn about new plans for the podcast in 2018, and we'll finally find out from Efrem's doctor if that thing on his penis is contagious.
That's my balls. That's definitely.
So all that and more on the next episode of the Punk Rock and Politics podcast. Oh shit, man! I think I got our text messages and my show notes confused on that one. I don't.
Yeah, I think you probably did.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for coming on, Efrem, and spending some time here on the podcast. Peace out, 2017. And hey, everyone listening, thanks for a great year, and we're looking forward to another great year. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out Punk Rock and Politics. If you enjoyed the show and the information brought to you, please subscribe and share the podcast. It helps us here at Punk Rock and Politics, but more importantly, it helps the featured bands gain exposure. Also, if you know any bands or musicians who would like to join the political mosh pit and have their music featured on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast, please email us at punkrockandpolitics@gmail.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. And rock on, political junkies.
I think all our society is run by insane people for insane objectives.
Doing a better job of talking to each other. The left hand now knows what the right hand is doing.
Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it. All right.
That's my balls. That's definitely.
So all that and more on the next episode of the Punk Rock and Politics podcast.